was made from the roommate's phone, excuse me, and we're not going to divulge who made that call.
So they came here together. They eventually get into the same apartment together.
Is this your place?
Yeah.
Perfect. You know why we're here?
And I assume noise.
Noise, yeah.
Yeah.
And in the end, they died together.
Welcome back. This morning, as we give a voice to victims, we're keeping an eye on an Idaho courtroom where defendant Bryan Kohberger, the man accused of murdering 4 University of Idaho students, made a court appearance on Thursday. And his defense team is doubling down on their alternate suspect theory. But the judge wants some evidence to back it up.
Additional information. What I'd like is by the 23rd, if possible, for the defense to do 2 things. One, provide me with whatever actual evidence you have that supports those allegations, rather than just allegations. And 2, provide for me how it is you believe that what you are offering is admissible, because it seemed to me much of what you had put in there was fairly potentially fairly objectionable in terms of admissibility.
Okay, so the judge wants to see some proof, and then, of course, the state's going to have an opportunity to review what the defense puts forward and then file their response. So the judge set a couple of court dates coming up for that. And so many motions have been under seal, so who knows if we'll get to see this ahead of trial. But, of course, we're watching the docket every day to see what else is filed. Let's talk about this idea in general, though, the idea that someone else did these homicides, or multiple people did these homicides, maybe not just one person. Let's talk about that defense theory. Let's bring back in our legal experts, Dave Ehrenberg and William Ehlenfeld. Dave, let me begin with you, please. Your thoughts on what the defense is seeking to do here.
Well, when you got nothing, you got to start creating something. I mean, they waited months before they could figure out an alibi for Bryan Kohberger, and it was that he was driving alone in the middle of the night looking at stars in his hardtop Hyundai. None of this makes any sense. Might as well just let my Beagle do the closing argument, because they're just throwing anything at the wall. That makes about as much sense as an alternate suspect, right? How do they get Bryan Kohberger's DNA on the knife sheath? How do you explain that? Some other guy set him up, planted it there, and then drove off in a Hyundai Elantra, which just happens to be Kohberger's same car. And of course, Kohberger can't explain where he was that night. No witnesses, no alibi for him. It doesn't make any sense. This guy did it. He's going down for it. I respect the defense lawyers for trying what they can, but the judge, you can see, is as skeptical as I am.
Yes. Oh, Dave, tell us how you really feel. Love everything you just said there, especially the part about your adorable dog doing the arguments. You know, I think we would all be here for that. Let me piggyback off of something you shared with, you know, when it's a defense team trying to deal with the bad facts. They've got a lot of bad facts, these attorneys who are representing Mr. Kohberger. William, tell me, we've seen this team launching a rigorous defense for him. It seems like they're leaving no stone unturned. The motions they've filed, I commend these prosecutors for keeping up. I think it's going to be really hard with what they're doing. Could this have anything to do with the state seeking the death penalty? Would there be any repercussions for his defense team if they didn't explore the idea of another suspect, and then if he was convicted and sentenced to death then?
Yeah, that's a great point. And by the way, my Bernie Doodle Bettis might also want to have a crack at this trial in addition to Dave's people. But
yes,
named after Pittsburgh Steeler Jerome Bettis.
Oh, that's so awesome.
When there's a death penalty case, these things, if there were to be a conviction and he were ordered to be sentenced to death, then that's going to be on appeal for quite some time. And at that point in time, new attorneys will be appointed, and it would be the job of those new attorneys to try to pick apart what his current attorneys did wrong. And so they want to make sure they cover all their bases and that they explore every potential theory. And I know at a pretrial hearing in this case early on, Julie, one of Mr. Kohberger's defense attorneys said that they might have an expert who's going to say this crime could not have been committed by just one person, that you needed to have two perpetrators and two weapons. And what the judge is saying now, and I really like this, the judge is saying, look, give this to me in advance of trial. I don't want there to be games played. A quote from the judge is, I don't like surprises. And so the judge is going to allow the defense to submit this under seal. The judge is going to review it and see if it is really admissible evidence or if it's objectionable. And even in that instance, if the defense has tried to get it in and the judge doesn't allow it, that would create an appeal issue for them, and they would be covering themselves. If in fact he's convicted and sentenced to death, they will have at least be able to say that they attempted to offer this alternate offender theory.
William, your insight's so helpful. Thank you for that. And didn't I tell you, you and Dave need to be friends? You're both animal lovers. Love it. We could talk about animals all day long here. I know I could. I love when the animals are watching the show and people send their pictures. And I bet we'll get some this morning after this discussion with you two. All right, so let's turn our attention to something else that came up. This was something that had many talking. It came up in the hearing on Thursday. In reference to the home on King Road that's now been demolished. Apparently there was a model, kind of a mock-up of the home that was made. It's going to be used as an exhibit, but it was referred to as a dollhouse. Take a look.
To the extent that the model was characterized as a dollhouse, I think that was an inappropriate characterization. It is an inappropriate characterization. If I'm responsible for it, I assume responsibility, but that's simply not an appropriate way for it to be described, given what occurred there and the victims.
I think a better term is simply a model.
Yeah, the judge is right. Model, not a dollhouse. Let's talk about those victims. Let's put our focus on them and what this is going to be like for all of them. Something, as you both know, it just broke my heart when I heard about those two housemates who are surviving roommates of the four beautiful students who were killed, and how the judge said they're going to have a seat, and yes, they're going to be witnesses, but he thinks it's going to be highly unlikely they're ever going to show up in court and be around everybody because of the way that they were treated after this. I know you both are such tremendous advocates for victims and have done so much for the people that you've represented, respectively, in Florida and in West Virginia. And so let's turn our conversation to that. Dave, to you first, please. Your thoughts on this?
Well, the one victim who survived and saw the bushy-eyebrowed killer has been portrayed as part of the conspiracy to kill her own roommates, and it's outrageous. And I've seen this online where you could have a mountain of evidence, as we do in this case against Bryan Kohberger, and still you have his defenders, and I guess they'll believe anything. I have one rule when it comes to people like that online when they comment on my videos. They say, you can say what you want, but my one rule is when he's found guilty, I want you to come back and admit that you were wrong. But I'm sure we'll never hear from you again at that point.
Right. You're right, Dave. The online bullies, they pick and choose when they want to attack and who they want to attack, and no consequences, no penalties of perjury for them, no consequences out in a cyber world. But, you and William will keep doing what you're doing, advocating for victims, as you always have. William, what did you think when you heard that the judge said, of course they will not allow our cameras to film those surviving housemates, we'll just have the audio of what they're saying on the stand to broadcast, and that they probably won't want to sit in the courtroom because of the way that people have treated them?
It made me really sad to hear that. I mean, the trauma that they've been through, they should have the opportunity to, and he's giving them that opportunity to go in the courtroom and to see this process through to the end. That can be therapeutic in many ways, but the fact that they're not potentially going to go in there because of how they've been treated by these keyboard warriors is really sad. It's really disgusting. There is a mountain of evidence in this case. I strongly believe he's going to be convicted, and I hope that those folks will reconsider the positions they've taken, the awful things that they've said online after that. Probably not. I guess I'm skeptical when it comes to folks like that, but it's sad, the world we live in, that kind of stuff can go on. And I just hope that the survivors, that these folks he's talking about, are able to move on someday and heal as much as possible from what they've experienced.
Well said, William. Thank you. Yeah, we always say, focus on the good people, the encouragers, the healers, the helpers, like Mr. Rogers. William, I know you love that Mr. Rogers reference. He would always say, when I was a little boy, my mother would say, look for the helpers. When you see scary things out there, look for all those good people, and so many wonderful victims advocacy organizations are there to support them. Well, we'll continue following it and leave the discussion here for now. Dave and William are coming with us. I want you to do the same at home, please. And as we go to break, before we go to our next segment, come to your television set. Look at these beautiful children gone far too soon. We want to remember the victims in the Idaho Student Murders case. Too much focus is on Bryan Kohberger. So let's remember Kaylee Gonsalves, Madison Mogan, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin. These young, bright, sweet people were taken in the most awful way. Our hearts go out to their families and their friends and everyone who loves and misses them so much. We'll be right back.